Good morning, and welcome to week one of American Government and Politics. And this week, we're going to kind of deal with some of the basics before we get into the specifics of the way our government was constructed. And also, I'm going to try something a little bit different, and you can give me feedback as to whether or not you think it's effective and useful, or whether I shouldn't do it. What I'm going to do this week is I'm going to divide the content that I want to present in these lectures into three, what you might call micro lectures. And there's a lot of educational theory behind this. I'm not personally so sure how I feel about it. So as I said, I will be looking for feedback from viewers as to whether or not it was useful and successful. But let's get going. So in this first micro lecture, what I want to do is actually go right back to kind of the basics and define what I'm going to mean in the context of this course by American and by government and by politics, the three words that are part of the course title. And I think the goal of this is for you to think a little bit about these terms and to be able to kind of accurately paraphrase the definitions of government that I present, and then really to be able to distinguish at the end of this between government and politics, and also recognize the scale at which we're talking, because scale matters when we're understanding American government. We're ultimately going to talk about these traditions that came out of kind of the European Enlightenment and from some other places as well, and led to this experiment in government that we've been conducting for the last 250 years or so. Next week, we'll focus on much more specific historical events that influence the development of this government and this nation that it supports. But it's always a good idea, I think, before we begin learning about a topic, to make sure that we've defined our terms so that we know what we're talking about and other people know what we're talking about too. It's pretty easy these days to point to any number of serious disagreements or conflicts in our society that have either arisen out of or have been made worse by people talking past each other and misunderstanding, either deliberately or accidentally, what the other side is saying. It's difficult enough to discuss and negotiate and compromise on serious issues when we're honestly engaging with other people's ideas. It's nearly impossible if we don't even comprehend what it is they're talking about. So let's start with the absolute basics. This course is about American government and politics. What does each term mean? For our purposes, American is going to mean the United States. So we're talking about a nation that exists mostly in North America, and that grew out of a series of English colonies along the Atlantic coast. Although, of course, not all of the English colonies joined the revolution that spawned the United States. But ultimately, the ones that did achieve their independence from Great Britain and spread westward through the conquest of both indigenous peoples and rival European and North American nations. The American population consists then of the descendants of those English colonists and of the indigenous peoples, as well as the descendants of populations assimilated when their territories were conquered, and also immigrants from all over the world and their descendants. America's history contains countless examples of both the best and the worst choices and outcomes. It's not our job here really to choose. But it may be true that different ideas related to politics and governments in America influenced some of those choices and outcomes, and we'll consider that as we go. In the meantime, government and politics remain to be defined. Our textbook defines government as, quote, the means by which a society organizes itself and how it allocates authority in order to accomplish collective goals and provide benefits that the society as a whole needs. That's on page 8. And you may have noticed that this definition doesn't really say anything about scale. And it is true, and it's important, that government exists at a wide variety of scales. Nations have governments, but in America, so do states and cities and villages And in other places, even bands of nomads and non-state entities have governments. Religious communities have governments. And we'll be discussing government in this course mostly in the context of the nation. But there will be a lot of times when we consider the relationship of our national government with other governments, such as those of other nations or of the states that make up the United States. Even within the U.S., the interests and the priorities of governments at these different scales don't always align. You've probably seen examples such as states legalizing marijuana when the federal government considers it illegal, or local sanctuary policies that clash with federal immigration enforcement. It's also useful to distinguish government, that is, the formal institutions and processes of government, from the broader idea of governance, which includes many non-state actors and practices that shape our collective decisions. And sometimes even parties don't match, such as when voters pick one party for governor of their state and a different party for mayor or for president. And these mismatches are often an important part of the story. Another popular textbook on this topic, which we're not using this semester, offers a slightly different emphasis. It says, government is composed of institutions and processes that rulers use to strengthen and perpetuate their power or control. And this isn't from some anarchist fringe textbook. It's from a very mainstream textbook called American Government, Power, and Purpose by Lowy et al., published in 2025. It's a best-selling and very expensive college textbook that has been described by its reviewers as the gold standard, and it's written by professors from major universities. It's interesting that in addition to power, the definition mentions both institutions and processes as parts of government. And this kind of seems sensible when you think about it. A set of regulations is as important as the police force that enforces them. The definition, of course, also mentions rulers, and that introduces a potential distinction between the people in charge and the people that they rule. Now, sometimes it's easier to imagine rulers and subjects in other places and other forms of government, such as monarchies or autocracies or totalitarianism or even oligarchy. We don't typically think that the same dynamic applies to our own government, which we think of as a democracy. And we tend to hang on to that idea and insist on our freedom, even when the evidence of our experience might sometimes suggest otherwise. We're Americans, after all. This is a democracy. We like to say nobody rules us. But the distinction between those who hold authority and those who live under it is worth keeping in mind. The problem is, once again, defining our terms. What exactly is democracy? Is that what we have? And while we're at it, who are we? The U.S. Constitution, of course, famously begins with that phrase, "we the people." But what does that mean? The same best-selling commercial textbook that I just mentioned defines politics as conflicts over the character, membership, and policies of any group or organization. It continues, as our own textbook does actually, by saying politics is the struggle over who gets what, when, and how. And it cites the source of that what, when, and how question as a leading 20th century political scientist named Harold Laswell. If politics is a contest over whose needs the government's going to meet, then we the people in the Constitution's preamble may not be quite as unified as the optimistic language suggests. I'm going to wrap up here. So in this first micro lecture, what we've done is try to define our three core terms and note that government operates at multiple scales and that politics is fundamentally about potential conflicts over allocation. Next time, we'll look at those different forms of government that I mentioned, monarchy, oligarchy, democracy, and the rest, and think about why those distinctions matter. I'll see you then.